want to give my immediate first impressions after getting roughly 6 to 8 hours of gameplay under my belt for Pokémon Scarlet. I pre-ordered my copy as soon as it was available through Amazon. They delivered it at 8:30 p.m. on release day. Thanks, Amazon. So this is going to be the second Pokemon game that I've ever played. The first one was Arceus in the beginning of the year. That one was really an open world game. And this is kind of what Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are hoping to obtain, like that same sort of gameplay. So I did purchase both Scarlet and Violet. I'm going to be playing Scarlet while my wife's going to be playing Violet since purple's her favorite color. My starter is Fuecoco and my wife's is going to be Sprigatito. Now, the game has gotten a big reputation immediately upon launch for being pretty glitchy. It's slow with a slow frame rate. It's got bad graphical pop-in, and it looks, from what I've seen, basic. Within the first 5 minutes of me playing it, I ran into graphical issues with the screen going black, and what all my character did was just look at a painting. There are big amounts of what's called animation time splicing, and this is where sprites and objects in the distance, they have lower frame rates than when they are closer to where the character is at. So like when the character moves closer, the frame rate increases for these objects and NPCs or characters, what have you. It was quite noticeable in Arceus and a fair bit in a game like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 too. 3 as well. The big difference in Scarlet and Violet, though, is it occurs right next to the player. I mean, just look at this clip here where my character is being introduced to her class. NPCs around her have body motion. It looks really janky, and the animation is very, very time splicey. This wouldn't have been noticeable if they were way out in the distance. And so the big question is, why? Why is this being used so much in such close quarters, close environments? And maybe it was just something to try and save processing power, but again, it just begs the question: why is that even needed? This is not a very intensive scene. It's not a very intense processing or looking game. Another thing here is that, again, this is another Pokemon game with no voice acting. So this begs the question: is this a constraint Game Freaks, the company and Pokemon Company, has with the Pokemon series, or is it like a purposeful choice? On this latter point, maybe by not assigning voices, it allows the player to personify characters in their own minds to what they'd all sound like. But again, I guess your mileage may vary in regards to that point. I mean, this is 2022. Look at a game like Xenoblade Chronicles 3, where must have been 95% of it was voice acted, up to and including some of the NPCs. Overall, though, I found the environments to be bright and colorful, albeit a little bit muted. Also, I'm not sure why the sky is gray. Maybe this is to enhance colors of an environment and individual characters or the Pokemon. Not sure what the reason is for that aesthetic choice. The translation itself for the game, I feel like appears to be done really well. It kind of has that same vein or feel that Arceus did, and I'm guessing that this is how Pokemon games in general are. The battle system works really well. I followed the advice that I saw online to hit R3 whenever starting battles to get kind of that classic look that Pokemon games have, that classic battle view. The movement around the field is good, although I wish the character himself or herself had the ability to jump, although thankfully when riding the legendary that's given to the player, mobility is increased and that particular Pokemon can jump then. I also miss the ability to throw Pokeballs and just try and capture Pokemon out in the wild like you could in Arceus, whereas in Scarlet and Violet, to capture them you do have to engage them in battle and whittle their hit points down and to be able to catch them then. Now, I also did complete a Terra Read for the first time. These kind of reminded me of an MMORPG battle where it pits 4 players against one tougher boss. It adds in a time limit to beat said boss, and so you're kind of limited there. It adds a little bit more of a difficulty setting in, which kind of makes sense because honestly it was a little bit easy. I went in by myself, and it looked like the game added in 3 other CPUs as teammates. It kind of seems like a cool concept, and I'm looking forward to doing this with friends and everything. So the big question another big question that has been popping up with this is this Nintendo / Game Freaks / Pokemon Company's Cyberpunk? And this has been thrown around social media very recently. And again, to kind of refresh your memory, when Cyberpunk had come out, I think it was like a year or two ago, that was something where it was ridiculous, where it would crash every 30 minutes. It was not stable at all. You had characters and NPCs in T-poses and just really weird, janky crap going on. And in my opinion, this is not Cyberpunk for a number of reasons. First, Cyberpunk was only playable with some crashing when it first came out on high-level PCs, and the performance got worse the lower the consoles you try to play it on. So like it was relatively playable on the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, and it was garbage on the PS4 and the Xbox One. Now Scarlet and Violet is at least functional, albeit janky, and it doesn't crash every half hour like Cyberpunk did in the beginning. And also to note is that CD Projekt Red, the company that made Cyberpunk, they worked their butts off to turn Cyberpunk, after it released, into and really turned it into a No Man's Sky level redemption story. And what I mean by that is the game, it's actually pretty decent to play now. And if you manage to pick up a copy on sale for $10 at Best Buy or whatever, now you got a pretty good game to play. And from what I've heard, it's pretty decent. To that end, and my last point is Nintendo, Game Freak, Pokemon Company, they will never work to patch and update the game to fix these issues, at least to a major level. Because why would they? The question more is, why would they need to? The game's going to sell millions upon millions of copies, and there's no need for them to fix this. And if you look at the least common denominator is the casual player who's going to play this and enjoy their time, look at the cute Pokemon, and just kind of move on. It's more hardcore gamers that will really deep dive into this kind of performance and will put the hundreds of hours into this game. And in my opinion, I really feel like it's that Nintendo, Game Freak, Pokemon Company is doing a disservice to these hardcore gamers, and really even to the casuals, because if they keep releasing games like this, my question to you, my viewers here, don't you think that they're going to risk losing longtime fans and even some of the newer and younger fans as well? Are they going to impact and result in lower sales for future games? Let me know in the comments section below, because honestly, every Pokemon game, from what I've heard, there's always been controversy before release, and this is one of the ones where, okay, after release, it's pretty controversial. My cynical view on it is, I feel like these games are always going to sell regardless, so even if these games continue to release as jank, it's just going to continue to sell. I mean, look at Bethesda with some of their games, but at least with something like Fallout 76, yeah, there's still people that bought into it, but there was a lot of people that were really angry with the state that game released in, and they tried it, didn't buy in early, and pretty much left. And that's, I don't know if you could call that a success story. I apologize, I don't have the numbers handy, but from what I've heard, probably wasn't as successful as Bethesda would have liked. And in general, Bethesda games, even masterpieces like Skyrim, can be kind of jank. And in general, my last thought about this and just games like this is last games that appear on long-running consoles. I just kind of want to share my thoughts on that. Often these are the ones that use the full power of an aging system. Let's look at something like Kirby's Adventure on the NES, Perfect Dark for the Nintendo 64, and The Last of Us for the PS3. I feel like I'm seeing the opposite with the Switch here, because we have masterpieces like Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey released in the beginning in 2017, and Smash Bros. Ultimate in 2018. Whereas we're getting jank games such as this, Pokemon Violet and Scarlet, and slowdown issues in newer games like Bayonetta 3 or Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Really more so even with Age of Calamity, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, that offshoot spin-off game that released, I think it was the end of 2020. And I think this is happening because the Nintendo Switch wasn't all that powerful to begin with. It couldn't compete with the PS4 and Xbox One in the power department back then. And now that the PS5 and Xbox Series X and even S just blow it out of the water, both power and performance-wise. And Nintendo's usually really good at showing that creativity and fun factor is what matters. But I think Nintendo's at the end of the ropes, even to this end here with this system. Because again, we're getting at it'll be 6 years in March next year that the system's been around. Going back to Pokemon Scarlet, the core game itself is a lot of fun. It's got a good battle system, it's got fun exploration, personable characters, and it's got a nice bright world. Ultimately, I'll have to deal with all the performance issues to be able to enjoy what this game has to offer, and I'm hoping the fun's going to outweigh the pain, and I'm hoping to have a lot of fun playing with my wife and my friends and everything. Let me know what you think of the game so far in the comments section below. Please like, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Thanks for watching and have a good day.